Oi, what's the best game where you get to eat pie? What's the best game where you play a dead guy? Aye, you'll find out in DG247's podcast. Here, what's the best game where you swing from a rope? And what's the best game where you batter the Pope? Sesame Street 2. Like I said, you will find out in this your podcast. Hello and welcome to the Best Games Ever podcast, the show where we like to find the best game within a really specific category. For example, this week we're looking for the best game featuring a powerful ring. Inspired, of course, by season 2 of Rings of Power. I've actually stolen this topic.
Of course. I didn't realise that's why it was picked at all.
Yeah, I've actually stolen this topic off Bertie from Eurogamer, who came up with it for a sponsored article he's writing over there. And I was like, I'm having that. Do you mind? And he said no. So I've stolen it. So, best game featuring a powerful ring. I don't know who's come in here with a Sonic. I suspect possibly Alex. There's a lot of ways to interpret this question because, of course, we've got Halo rings. They
are powerful rings in Sonic, though, aren't they?
Yeah.
If you think about them, they're quite powerful.
I did have, when I was thinking about what I was going to choose, there was a Sonic game, but it wouldn't have been the Sonic game that anyone would have thought of.
Yeah.
I think.
Oh, yeah.
Fucking
Mean Bean Machine.
No, but Sonic 3D, like, you're not just collecting the rings.
Island.
You go through the rings, don't you, to cash in the flickies. So I did think about that, but I decided against it.
Yeah. Well, it's probably a good thing you did, because that's a terrible game.
It's all right. 3D, Sonic 3D is all right, man. It's underrated. People just hated it because it came out the same fucking year as Mario 64.
Yeah. I mean, that is true.
I
mean, when you've got like Nintendo doing like the 3D platformer revolution, and you've got Sega hitting out with it's Sonic but in 3D, and it's like isometric Sonic on a
I mean, just for perspective, it came out in November 1996, and Mario 64 came out in America in September.
Didn't we have Tomb Raider by that point?
So it came out 2 months after. But on its own terms, it's a really good. And actually, something I can recommend. I can't remember the guy's name, but he's like one of the bosses of Traveler's Tales. And he's got or he was at the time, or something like that. But he's got a YouTube channel where he talks a lot about all the sort of stuff he's done over the years, and he was rebuilding like an optimized version of that game and putting in all stuff they cut out and stuff like that just for fun because he still had the source code. And it's super interesting. So it's worth like, I don't know, YouTube Sonic 3D Blast cut content or whatever. Just Sonic 3D Blast Director's Cut, he's calling it. So there you go.
You telling me somebody found more of Flicky's Island and people were like, oh, great.
Yeah.
That's the thing I want more of.
Hey. His YouTube channel is called Game Hut. And literally he's got stuff like, here's 10 minutes of an early prototype of Sonic R. And all this sort of stuff that Traveler's Tales worked on.
Brilliant.
Nice.
He's just mined his own career. And obviously Traveler's Tales did all sorts of stuff. So he's also got loads of stuff about like the post Naughty Dog Crash games and stuff like that, because they did those on the PS2.
Yeah.
Anyway, cool. I've properly derailed us.
Yeah, so that's not your pick.
No, that's fine.
You haven't started it yet and got that far yet.
Hey, we haven't even got to picks yet.
We've done the intros, actually, haven't we?
Listen,
who are we?
I want to just... Right, there's a few things that have happened in terms of our sort of YouTube response in the past few weeks, right? But as Tom says, we haven't introduced anyone yet. I am joined today, of course, by Tom Orry, Connor Makar, and Alex Donaldson. Donaldson, it's been a while since you've been on. I think you're still winning, so...
It's been forever. I've just been so busy.
You were like, I can take 16 weeks off the podcast and still be on top of the leaderboard, so whatever.
I feel like it was just I had Gamescom.
Yeah.
I went to see Dragon Age. I went to see Flight Simulator. Had life stuff going on.
Yeah.
So it's robbed me of my ability to come on and embarrass people on the podcast.
Donaldson just sent me a photo of the Grand Canyon the other day. I was like, Man, imagine being Donaldson.
Along with disparaging words about someone. Saying, I wish this person would fall into it.
Yeah. So it was. It's been a really packed few months. So the last episode of this podcast attracted a little bit of controversy, whichever one of those you prefer, from fans of Star Citizen, right? Because Sharif came on, and the topic was the best game that outlived its biggest rival, right? So Sharif naturally came on with two games that are both still going. Arguably one which hasn't actually probably released yet, and argued on some level that Elite had outlived Star Citizen, which, you know, you
let this go for 10 minutes.
Well, I was interested in what he had to say, but I was interested in how he was going to spin it that Star Citizen didn't exist anymore, where it clearly does, just not as a finished video game. So anyway, but Sharif said in that podcast, it's, you know, Star Citizen remains after all these years an unfinished product. But if you point that out, there's an army of weird nerds that get annoyed. And lo and behold, he pointed it out, and an army of weird nerds got annoyed. So we've got
if you titled the video like Star Citizen versus Elite.
I did.
That's
yeah.
Sure, your fault that is.
I SEO'd it, and it worked.
If there's one thing I've learned, it's any game where people have put their money into it and not had a sufficient return. People immediately feel like they must defend it with their lives.
Oh, there's so much sunk cost fallacy going on. I even said in last week's, I've no fucking played Star Citizen for 10 years. I made that clear. Whatever. Not interested in researching it or whatever. And so many people are like, don't talk about a game unless you've researched it. You could have Googled it. Fuck.
It's true though, Jim. You could have done some research.
I really could have. I've not done my due diligence.
What is this bit for, by the way? This section. Are we apologising? What is this?
Oh, we're not apologising. I just thought it'd be funny to acknowledge it.
Okay. They're not even listening to this, are
Everyone
they?
is so mad.
They only listened to last week's because you put the title in. If you call this one Star Citizen versus Elite Dangerous Part 2.
Star Citizen versus Sonic 3D Blast.
Yeah, there we go. Perfect.
Sonic 3D is the better game.
Flecky's Island is better than Star Citizen. Yeah, on the grounds that it got fucking released. You can't say that. It's a perfectly playable game. I've got 1,000 hours in it. Anyway, right, okay, so we're looking for the best game featuring a powerful ring. Now, I'm going to go to Connor first, cautiously.
Really?
Given the sort of grot that Connor's into, we don't know where this is going to go.
I mean, I think it's established I've reformed now. I'm a whole new person. Although last time I was on this podcast, I said I would have to go back to that sort of stuff to win.
Yeah.
But I haven't. So, you know, fingers crossed. My pick, right? You know, obviously this podcast title was inspired by the new season of the whatever Lord of the Rings show. And so I've picked one of the best Lord of the Rings games of all time, which is Lord of the Rings Battle for Middle-earth 2.
Wrong.
You've actually gone for the Lord of the Rings game.
Yeah.
Which is a banger.
I thought about picking a Lord of the Rings game and you've and decided against it because I thought it would work against me. And you picked the wrong one.
There's two choices, right? There's this one, and then there's that awesome action game where you play like Gandalf and shit, and you like sort of
War in the North.
Downton. No,
I really like War in the North.
I don't know because I didn't pick it. But this one's
the
the
only
best
one worth it is the Final Fantasy X ripoff.
You would say that.
Beautiful game.
You would say
that is the most Donaldson comment imaginable.
It's the best Lord of the Rings game ever made. Like a bunch of people in EA in LA just went, we're just going to make a Lord of the Rings game and it's just going to be a Final Fantasy knockoff. Because of course it's... Oh, for Christ's sake.
Is that Square Enix or is that your paying you for that?
Special ring.
Just checking the checks clear.
Speaking of EA making great decisions, they decided we're going to make an RTS game. And then they decided we're going to make an RTS game again, but better. And they made this one. And it's great. There's like 2 campaigns in it. There's the good campaign where you play like elves and dwarves and whatever. it's cool, it's fine. And then there's the evil campaign where you play Sauron, and he's brilliant because then you get trolls and orcs and goblins and all sort of evil stuff. And it's just a really decent RTS game, you know, good multiplayer mode, where, you know, you get to do tense battles against other players, classic RTS style, build up a base, you know, get some units out there. Classic RTS goodness. You can even play Shelob, it's got spiders in it. And there's actual proof that this game is an all-timer, which is that in researching this game, I found that there are still Europeans playing this competitively.
Europeans.
And you can go on YouTube.
That's true of any RTS. Any RTS.
No,
could be
not any
RTS. There's people playing Warzone 2100 still. Great RTS, by the way.
But not with like, they've made like custom like graphics and stuff for it. You got some German guys doing like Spider Rush.
Yeah, they're all Germans. It's RTS games. The Germans love RTS.
They do love RTS games. And they've embraced this one. They love it. Because it's brilliant. And it's really
How
good.
does the Ring fit into this?
Because it's a Lord of the Rings game. Sauron is...
Yeah, but it's an example of it being powerful in this game.
Yeah, because Sauron is doing his big evil thing in order to get the ring. It's all about the ring. The entire premise for this game existing is because there are two factions fighting over Middle-earth.
Can you use the ring in the game?
No, it's kind of like a haunting presence over the narrative, you know.
One thing I will say is I appreciate one thing that this game is unassailable at and is the best at. Is this series is having ridiculously long name, because obviously the second one is called The Lord of the Rings: The Battle for Middle-earth 2: The Rise of the Witch King.
Right.
And someone at EA decided that was suitable to put on a box.
Yeah, it's a banger. It's so good. It's brilliant.
I don't know what you call that when you have two subtitles, subtitle to subtitle. Like there's two colons in that name. Colon to colon.
I think it's amazing. I think it's really good. And it holds up. You can still play it today and it feels pretty good to play. And I think a really good RTS stands the test of time. Cool. And it's all about a ring because of Lord of the Rings.
So,
you know?
Not even 15 minutes into the Powerful Ring podcast, and we're already going on about colons. That's great. That's really good. Thank you for that.
Is it though? That sounds a bit like when a teacher says, "Yeah, well done." That is a good answer. It's not the right one, is it?
But it is
well done for trying.
It's a game based around and focused on the powerful ring in fiction. That's it.
Do any of the Lord of the Rings games let you use the ring?
I think some of the...
Well, you don't really use the ring in Lord of the Rings because if you put it on, you are corrupted and fucked.
Yeah,
I think
that
I remember
could be a
there
mechanic.
Being, yeah,
corruption.
I remember that.
Games love corruption.
I remember there being one game where Frodo could put it on for a bit, but if you put it on for too long, he dies. He just
there
dies.
You go. Pick that one. What's that game?
I don't know, but it's worse than this one. This one's great.
Should have been a Gollum game.
You can't talk about a game if you haven't done your research. Do your research.
Exactly. I couldn't have picked that one.
The Star Citizen Wiki, you could have read it. I'm just amazed that out of all of us, you are the guy who went for the straight down the line Lord of the Rings RTS. Just absolutely on brief. Sort of, you're not messing around. You're not trying to be clever, and I think that shows growth for you, Connor.
Yeah. So, also, a bit of a meta sort of point here, but my weird picks are only funny because I don't do them all the time. They've got to be you got to hit some jabs out before you go for the uppercut, right? So,
is this a criticism of Mark?
Yes, this is no, not consciously, but now you say it out loud. Yes, it's a criticism of Mark.
In front of Connor, you can't see it. Where he's facing, he's got on the wall in front of him. Get the jabs out before you do the uppercut. It's his slogan.
Got to get the jabs out before you do the uppercut. It's true.
Yeah,
it's a true thing.
So yeah, Lord of the Rings. Alternative picks. I thought about Halo, and now that I think about it, with hindsight of your reaction, that would have been a great pick. But I can't now. You know. Lord of the Rings, Battle for Middle-earth 2.
One of my favorite stories about Halo was in a previous life where I worked for Tom in a different capacity, right?
Yeah.
Our news guy, Dave Scammell, got a call from a PR guy, an Italian PR guy who will remain nameless.
I love how just even saying that, at least it's a laugh and everyone knows who it is.
Everyone knows who it is.
And
I know this story.
This guy used to call quite a lot and just chat with Dave. And the company he was working for was going to announce something that evening, but Microsoft had done a big Halo thing. And he called and he went, I'm Italian, I'm allowed to do this, right? Okay, just pointing this out. And he went, yeah, listen, Microsoft had done us a fuck because of Halo. Because of Halo. And Scammell was at his desk going, you what, mate? Hello? Hello? You saying hello? And he's like, no, they done us a fuck because of Halo.
This is a proper peek behind the curtain for the listeners here into video games PR.
It just remains my favorite Halo memory. Nothing to do with the actual game. Right, okay. Let's move on to that's 17 minutes on that. Well done, Connor. You're Sharif today.
Yeah, I mean, hey, look.
All right.
Get back to work.
Because we haven't heard from him for so long. Donaldson, what's your pick? I'm really excited about which Sonic games is going to be.
My pick is very unconventional. Not really a video game, audio game. But this is the best games podcast, not video games podcast, so fuck it. My pick is a game called Fist. Fist is an acronym. And Fist stands for Fantasy Interactive Scenarios by Telephone. The most powerful ring is when you ring the number.
Oh my God.
Is when you ring the 0898 800 876. Probably a sex line now, so if you're in the UK, don't ring that. But this was by Steve Jackson. So Steve Jackson was one of the two guys who co-founded Games Workshop. And I think in the games industry, we all talk about the other guy, Ian Livingston, quite a lot because Ian went on to do IDOS, so he had a hand in Tomb Raider.
Yeah,
and
also crucially loves doing media stuff.
Yeah, and he used to speak to the media, it still does.
Yeah.
Is he a sir now?
I think so.
Yeah, like...
I've been to his house. It's full of board games.
Yeah,
it's
and
like
he's
Connor's
a huge
house.
board game nerd. He even stuck it out, like trying to be a voice of reason and stuff at Square Enix Europe after they got acquired. Like, he was such a name that they couldn't even boot him out. They made him life president, which didn't last for his whole life because then he left. But you know, but yeah. So this basically was a fighting fantasy Dungeons and Dragons style thing, but played over the telephone. So the ring in this instance is a telephone ring. But I was thinking about this topic, and I don't know. There's so many games that are just, you got the magic ring of power. And even we said no Elden Ring, right? But there's even a previous From Software game that I bet if Bill Cliff or someone was on this podcast this week, he'd pick it. I think it's called Eternal Ring, and it's sort of like a prototypical shitty Dark Souls that they made for, it was a PS2 launch game. Anyway, yeah, so Fist is like you called up this number and it was a toll number, and you would literally be using the dial tones to choose where you were going, to duck and dodge, and then the narration would be read back to you, with beautiful British aplomb. They'd get actors in to read stuff out. And this was actually incredibly popular. Like, they legitimately did 3 or 4 different campaigns. They would advertise it like in the back of newspapers, so it'd be, in between the news and the sport pages of the Sun or the Mirror or whatever. And they commissioned the same guy who did a lot of the artwork for Warhammer and for Fighting Fantasy and stuff to do art for it. So that art would be on the adverts, and that would give you the number, and you'd call up and you'd play, and then you could, send off to get a pack sent to your house to give you more information on the lore and all that sort of stuff beyond what was in the game. And actually, I think it's really interesting because it's sort of like it's RPG design, but in a really constrained, interesting way. And it's another, in the same way that what we think of as video game RPGs are a spin-off from Dungeons and Dragons. This is a really interesting spin in another direction. And actually, the fascinating thing is, it's coming back.
Really?
So Steve Jackson is a an important dude. He co-founded Lionhead. He made a trading card game that was basically Magic the Gathering before Magic the Gathering, but it, it didn't quite take off, and then Magic just came and ate their lunch. But yeah, so they announced last year that they're basically bringing back the original campaigns and and doing some new ones and stuff as mobile apps, where it'll be like the Audible app, where you'll put your headphones in and it's a mobile game, and obviously it's reading out the bits in between, and then you're making your choices on your phone screen through an app instead of dialing a number, which unfortunately in the modern instance does remove the ring from the equation. But yeah, I just it's something that it always rattles around my head as a really really cool thing, and it was genuinely far before Connor's time, but it was genuinely in the mid-late 80s, and it was even available into the 90s, was genuinely really popular. It was popular enough that I was born in 89, and I remember it early in my life.
Wow.
So, yeah.
That's mad. I like the idea. Well, I can imagine it working quite well, because, like, one of the ways that one of the reasons why Dungeons and Dragons, for example, has exploded in recent years is because you can play it remotely. You can play it over webcams, and you don't have to leave the house to gather friends these days, right? And like back in these things are the purview of nerds, and back in the day, if you didn't have like a local group of friends that you could sit down with, you would kind of shit out of luck for playing stuff like this. And that's where you choose your own adventure books and stuff come in, right? Stuff you can do.
And this is a digital version of that, where you ring up the line. I'm going to keep using the word ring. And let me tell you, in addition, something you just sort of touched on, they had what they called the Black Claw Tavern. And the Black Claw Tavern was a conference call. So it was a discussion line. So you could enter the tavern in the game, and you would be in the tavern with other people. And you would talk to them.
That's
and
pretty
so
cool.
If you were stuck,
cool.
you could go to the tavern, and you would be talking to real other adventurers who were on the phone to you at the same time, on the phone to the
and everyone would be role playing, right? Presumably,
I'm sure until the one woman who played it called up, and then they'd probably all become disgusting perverts. But yeah, so actually, it did have that multiplayer element where you actually could speak to the real other people
That's
in the
amazing.
tavern, which is pretty bloody rad. And I think for 1986 or whenever it was it first came out, in a weird way, this game is never talked about, but it's sort of one of the first MMOs in a weird way.
Yeah, that's amazing.
Kinda.
I really, really desperately hope that some recordings were made of this tavern. Like you can just imagine it. Like you call up and you just hear a bunch of guys being like, "Forsooth, forsooth, my liege."
I can't stress enough. This was genuinely at the time, like when I did some reading before we came on the podcast, after I decided this was going to be my pick. And I'd always known about it because I'd seen the adverts and I was aware of it, and I was interested in it as a role-playing game nerd. But I was astonished when I actually realised how popular it was within that space. I mean, obviously it's a niche space, but there was a time when this was up there with fighting fantasy game books and with Dungeons and Dragons and with the early days of Warhammer as like one of the most important things. And then obviously I think the revolution of TV becoming better, and God, by the time I was born, we were in a world where like Sega Channel was starting up. Admittedly, that never went very far, but my point is the internet was coming up and stuff like that, and it sort of suffocated it out. But it was for a time genuinely really very popular, which is why they were able to do like several versions of it. So I think there were three of them. I think there were three fists.
Yeah.
But within each one, there were multiple adventures. So each fist was like a rule book, like a D&D rule book.
You would be the one who'd bring up fists and colons when we're... right. Is this what Lemmy partly based Adventure Call on? Because I'm getting mad Adventure Call vibes off this.
I don't know. I wonder.
I'd have to ask.
But yeah, so like the Adventure Call, for people who haven't seen it, is this Lemmy sketch where it's like a combination of what Alex is talking about and Babe Station.
Well, that was the tavern.
Yeah, it's like there's like a guy dressed as an elf on screen called Falconhoof who guides you through this. And it was entirely, I don't think this ever existed, it was entirely made up by Lemmy for this sketch. But it felt like something that could exist, that you just accepted it. You're like, oh yeah, well that's legit, that's the thing.
Well, it's sort of this. It's sort of this, like I say, and Limmy's of an age where he'd probably remember it. And like I say,
yeah, definitely.
they were advertising it in the UK in the big national newspapers, and I was reading an interview with Jackson where he was talking about, like, you know, they'd put an advert in the Mirror, and then that day and the next day they would have 5,000, 6,000, 7,000 people on the line concurrently.
That's mad.
Like, yeah.
Limmy's enough of a sado that he probably played it as well. So, cool. All right. Well, let's move on to Tom. What have you got for this one, Tom? I've got an idea of what you might pick.
I was going to argue a lot about semantics of ring.
A telephone ring is very, very. It's fine. It's a valid ring.
I let it go because while I would say it's more of a call, and a ring is the noise that the phone makes, we'll just let it go. You can think about that.
Yeah, but when you phone up, you hear the ringtone. You hear the ringtone.
Yeah. Okay. So, did I tell you about how I got knocked over by an e-scooter?
Yeah.
We said that we had that on the podcast. We have. Are you sure? Oh, let's say that again then. That's fine. Right, so my pick is, so years ago, probably like, I don't know, I'm going to say 15 years, I don't know how long it was. I was at work. I'm not sure you were there yet, Jim, or not. I don't know if you were part of that era or not. You may have been. Can't remember. And this game had got a big sort of pre-Christmas price reduction. It was like one of the things that used to happen was, like, if you wanted to get Christmas #1 or whatever, you'd slash the price like 20 quid a game. And everyone would go, even if people weren't that bothered, they'd be like, 20 quid, I might go and get that. So this game had been reduced to 20 quid. And I was like, right, I'm going to go and buy that. Even though I work in games, I could probably got sent a copy. Sometimes you just like buying games, right? So I went up to, it was quite a hot day. So I had my shorts on. Left the office, wallet, keys in my shorts. Nice and safe in there. Walked into town. Game was the local in Croydon. This was. There were other options, I think, to buy games, but Game was the one that was doing the promo. Went up to the counter. I'll have a copy of this, please. It's the one on sale. Advertised a lot. It's going to be on sale today. I was like, and they were like, here you go. That's 20 quid. And I was like, excellent. I'll buy that. And I was like, just going to get my wallet out of my shorts. And the zip to the shorts wouldn't open. Why are you laughing? This scarred me, this, Jim.
Sorry.
Why are you laughing?
No.
The zip
sounds quite harrowing, yeah.
The zip to my shorts wouldn't open. I was like, I'm sorry about this, but I can't get into the pocket of my shorts where my wallet is. Right? And I was there at the front of the queue. It was quite a busy lunchtime in Croydon. Everyone was queuing up to get this copy of the game. I was like pulling down the short zip, trying to get it to open. It would not. What happened was, I think the zip, whatever the technical term is, the bit with the pulley bit on and the zip had gone beyond the rail. I don't know what you call it on a zip, right? Classic. And it wouldn't go back in, and it wouldn't undo, wouldn't separate.
Yeah.
I was like, I'm sorry about this. So I was like, I was trying to go from within the shorts to try and yank the pocket apart. I just couldn't do it. And I said, right, I'm sorry, have you got any scissors? And someone went down back and brought back a pair of scissors, and I had to cut through the pocket to get into the shorts anyway. So I paid for it, whatever. That game was Skyrim. Skyrim, I didn't love, but it's a widely loved game. And there was a ring in that.
There was.
There is a ring. There is
Several
there's-
rings in that, yeah.
It's the Herstein ring I'm talking about.
Mm-hmm.
That one that lets you turn into a werewolf, right?
Mm-hmm.
Very powerful. Like you're literally using the ring. It's not just a ring that's in the world, or like you've sort of renamed a phone call as ringing. It's an actual ring, and gave you this incredible power to turn into a werewolf. And I thought, it's not. It's a bit of a safe choice, right? And I thought Alex will probably come on and he'll do something smart, like he's done, right? He's gone a bit around the subject and sort of been a bit clever. And I thought, right,
Yeah.
Connor will do something real basic, and he has. Lord of the Rings, you couldn't get any more basic. And I thought, right, I know what I do. There's this racetrack that is one of the most famous racetracks in all racing, right?
I fucking knew
And it's
you'd
in
do
so
that.
many games, and it's even got like a famous corner. It's called the Sebring, right? Sebring, right? That is got ring in the name.
It's not the one I would have picked.
I've gone with this one because it wasn't the obvious one.
Okay.
Anyway, famous. It's in loads of racing games, and if you want your racing game to have like a standing, you've got to have this in it because it is a big, powerful race course that people associate with racing, and they want to experience this in your new racing simulator. So it's the Sebring International Raceway. I'm going to go within Forza. Don't know, 7. Is there a 7?
Yeah, there is a 7. Yeah, it's the one
That
before
one.
the last one with the reboot.
That one.
Yeah. I'm gobsmacked. But yeah, no, I'm not gobsmacked because, well, I knew you would do this, but as Alex said, it was a different one that I thought you were going to go for. Right, and that's actually really good. So I'm a little bit disappointed. Can I reveal something that the people who don't pay for the podcast usually wouldn't be privy to? I had a Assetto Corsa and Nürburgring planned for later on, and you've ruined that now, Tom.
The Nürburgring was what when you said the
one,
ring.
yeah.
I thought it was a bit obvious. So I went for one that isn't actually called the something ring. It's just got ring in the title, which is about as close as Alex's thing having ring, but it's not really a ring.
If you are asking someone,
Donaldson,
if you are saying to someone you're going to phone them later, what do you say?
I'll give you a call. I'll give you a call.
Oh, piss off!
I'll give you a tinkle.
I'll
give you a wee tinkle on the
tinkle.
Tinkle.
I'll give you a tinkle on the winkle. That's a scammer one. Oh, I might give you a tinkle. I miss him. Right, so I'm slightly deflated now because you've stolen my one, and Donaldson unwittingly stole my backup, kind of.
Just pick any game where there's like, just pick the other Lord of the Rings game.
Yeah, just do
the Lord of the Rings game. Yeah, well, funnily enough, that was my fucking third option.
Pick a Sonic game. Sonic would actually count. It would do quite well because the rings are incredibly powerful.
Oh, there's no good Sonic games, are there?
Yeah, but
There's several.
No, there's not.
There's
There's
decent ones.
games that Sonic fans cling on to, but they're all shite. Right, okay. Well, look, I've got to make a decision now. So,
Christ, that was loud.
That was really loud.
Jesus.
it was.
Oh my god.
Oh, rest in peace, headphone users.
We can turn that down in the edit. I'm wearing I'm wearing like free Heathrow Airplane like flight headphones right now, and they're so bad quality that came on and it kind of like set my head ablaze. That was
Connor
awful.
the headphone
I
stealer.
saw
Yes.
well, I pressed the button and I just saw like Alex just like physically jump in the air. I'm sorry, but I guess I didn't mean that. All right, okay. So we've got Lord of the Rings RTS. We've got this Fist game. I really want to. The thing is, right? I rate Forza 7 very highly.
You can't even buy Forza 7 anymore. It's ineligible for the Eurogamer 100.
Yeah, you
or
can't
50,
get it anymore.
whatever it is.
You can't get it anymore because of Forza in particular. A lot of games have this issue, but Forza in particular has such rubbish licensing agreements. Whether you're talking about Motorsport or Forza Horizon, and I think it must be due to the licensing. They just get rid of the game. They just delete them. Like Forza Horizon 4.
I think it's music. I don't think it's cars.
Yeah.
I was chatting to the Flight Sim guys about this, about when they signed the agreements for planes and stuff. And they obviously wouldn't be drawn on what the exact agreements were.
Yeah.
But it does sort of sound like they're in perpetuity. And I bet cars are the same. So I bet it's music. Because that's what trips GTA up and stuff as well, right?
But is the music fundamental to the experience in Forza Horizon 4, for example?
No, but it's development resources to start patching out the songs that you expire your agreement on. And I suppose their argument is with Forza, it's like FIFA.
Yeah.
Forza 8 supersedes Forza 7 and basically has all the content and some. My issue is with delisting the Horizon games because each of those is unique.
Yeah.
Like, I don't really mind so much as long as people can still get their downloads, which they can. I don't mind the concept of we're taking FIFA 20 off sale because the music agreements have expired. Because, to be fair, if that happens to be your favourite one and you want to replay it, you already own it. Yeah. And if you don't care, then you don't care. But if the you'll have the newest one if you don't care. But with Forza Horizon, if you want to play, I don't know, when's the one in the UK going to get delisted? And then if you want to play that UK one,
if you want to play that UK one, you've got until like November or something to buy it.
There's no way to buy it, which I think is pretty poor. Yeah,
it's crap. Because like, it's such a Forza Horizon 4 is such a the one that really sticks in my craw because it's like, it's like this. It's not a perfect recreation of Edinburgh, but it's one of the few recreations of a city that I grew up in or around, and it's like, that's quite special to me, right? But and it's such an artifact, and it's just going to disappear on the grounds that you can still play 5. And it's like, I don't want to play 5. I mean, I do. It's good. But, it's not the same in the same way that, Motorsport 8 and Motorsport 7 are basically, as you say, a version that supersedes the previous one.
And it's something people appreciate years down the line as well, right? People will still love that driver Easter egg where they basically just made the original town the game was made in. I can't remember which town it is, but it's just lovely. Yeah, it's sad that these games go away.
It's really nice. Well, but even having said that, Motorsport 7 now delisted has the Top Gear racetrack, Dunsford Aerodrome. So and it's
and all that
so
voiceover
fun.
from those guys as well, right?
Yeah, and it's so fun to do that, especially because it's. If you're of a certain age, you actually kind of know every inch of that track just from watching telly. And you're like, I'm coming up to Gambon. So, even in the case of, Motorsport, you're still losing some cultural artifacts there, which I find quite sad. Anyway, that's a different discussion. But I love Motorsport 7. Love the Forza games. Great game. I've not played the particular Lord of the Rings game you've brought up, Connor, but obviously love Lord of the Rings generally.
You don't use the ring in it though, do you?
No, I don't use the ring in it.
At least in the Third Age, you are actually on the mission to destroy the ring.
That's the thing I was thinking.
Yeah.
That's the better one.
I'm actually right. I'm really, really struggling to pick a favorite here. I think what I'm going to go for is I'm going to go for Fist.
Yeah.
I'm going to go for Fist because it's funny that we went from ring to fist, and and it's the most sort of left field and imaginative take on the topic. I really like that. But everyone's picks was good. it's nice to see you again, Donaldson.
Yeah.
So,
I will say, by the way, the first one of the new fists is out, and you can buy it.
Oh, is it out?
It's
Okay.
like 18 quid.
It's Steve Jackson's been doing, like, he's basically just been kind of reimagining his entire, like, back catalogue, right, over the last sort of 10 years or so.
Mm-hmm.
What was the phone number for Fist?
And I've only just noticed, by the way, Jim, on the Wikipedia page of Fist, there is literally a reference to Limmy's show, and they describe it as a parody of Fist.
Of what?
So the Limmy sketch that you mentioned, is talked about on the wiki page for Fist.
Oh, right, okay.
Wow.
Saying that it is a parody of it.
Yeah.
So maybe so Limmy must have admitted it at some point.
That makes sense. Yeah. He probably mentioned it in an interview, I imagine.
Yeah.
That's, I'm quite excited about it, because one thing about watching the Falcon Hoof sketch is that it's funny, but there's a little part of me that's like, God, that would be fun, wouldn't it? If that actually existed.
Let's do it. Let's just do it.
Nice. How do we live in a world where Babe Station still exists, even though the internet is completely awash with pornography, but Fist no longer exists? There's no justice.
Even though we are bereft
not in its current
AR games. Yeah.
Bum guffs.
All right, okay.
Bum guffs.
The Higton Klaxon has sounded, so it's the end of the show. Thank you so much for listening. Please like and subscribe, etc.
I'm sorry, what just happened?
It signals the end of the show.
It's
the Higton Klaxon.
This is how long I've been away.
This has been a running joke for about 3 months.
Yeah,
for
we're just talking about that like it's a totally normal thing. What are you talking about? It's the Higton Klaxon.
I only watch the clips. I've never seen a clip with bum guff in it.
Right, okay.
I can't believe that. That's taken me completely. And also, again, that was really loud, so I've been deafened by Higton's cursing, Higton's foul, disgusting
foul language.
Yeah.
I'm getting on really well with Higton. I feel like on some level we're just the same guy, just... Anyway, right, okay. So, thank you so much for listening. Please give us a 5-star review on your favorite podcast platform of choice. It really helps us out. If you are a fan of Star Citizen, just fucking shut up, eh? And that's about the end of it. Now we're going to go into the paid version of the podcast, the extended one. For people we like to call besties. Tom, if you want to become a bestie, what is it you have to do?
Click support us in the top corner.
Yeah.
VG247.com, support us, pay £3 a month.
Yeah. It's that simple. It's really simple. Yeah. And it's as exciting as Tom made it out to be there. So
easy.
If you do that,
take long.
Yeah, you get ad-free access to VG247, guilt-free. And you get an extended version of this podcast, which we're about to record the extended portion of now. And so if you haven't paid for the podcast, this is where we love you and leave you.